Well, hello there, Tenno, and welcome back to the Steel Path Preparation series, where we are keeping it so for realsies and thinking about what we might need to make Steel Path less steely. But before we get into today's subject matter, which happens to be secondary weapons, I need you to drop me a like, comment and or sub if you haven't already, and help this little channel become something a little less little. Okay? So, we've already looked at slightly tankier warframes to help you survive. There are more, by the way, and also useful primary weapons that you could look into that may help start you out on Steel Path and beyond. And now we draw our focus to secondary weapons. After this, we will be looking at the melee situation and companions for Steel Path in separate videos, obviously, if you're viewing Delectation. Before we get to the weapons, however, that I like to use, let's be clear here, this list of weapons happens to be just the ones I like to use, plus a couple I've recently turned my attention to. It is not a formal instruction to go forth and get them all, nor the mod configs, expert builds and like the end game. However, they do work for me and my playstyle. I am not generally a meta player if you watch any of my videos, and nor do I actually care about the mathematical equations of how mods interact with each other. I'm learning, but I simply don't have the brain power, darlings. So as long as they kill things, and they do, for me, that is what matters. Now, we also need to think about resources. I keep banging on about them, and if you watch the previous two videos, you may actually be rolling your eyes at me at this point. I know. I can take it. But the better quality mods, like Former, Endo, Catalysts, Arcanes and their adapters that you have, the better your ability to take down the enemy and survive the onslaught of Steel Path will be. Those mods being Galvanized mods got from the Arbiters of Hexacity Relay, Primed mods from Baruki Tier, Corrupted mods I believe from the Deimos Vaults, and Nightmare mods from the Nightmare mode. You know, the dual stat mods with a positive and negative or two positives. Like the Arcanes that you see here on the screen got from various other games also will help you. And all of these things are tradable, though, just in case you don't want to, apart from some primed mods that you get from logins. But if you can go and collect as many of these as you can or buy them, over time, obviously not all in one go, you're going to do much better with your builds. And you will see them employed in my builds later. So feel free to start making some notes of what you need to focus on. Now, I'm going to be leveling with you right on here, so pay attention. For me, secondaries were a secondary thought. You see what I did there. But then Incarnon weapons came along, and of course we have the over-leveled Kuva, Tenet and Coda options. There is a definite list of S-tier stroke meta weapons in the game, and it seems some of the ones I gravitated to naturally are actually on that list now that I've checked. Now, some of these weapons can kill the enemies outright with help from Warframe abilities also, and some are more supportive characters, helping us prime the enemies or indeed keep us alive. And I may have mentioned it in my previous two videos, but now we're on Steel Path, we really do want to think about reducing the enemy's defenses using shield and armor stripping. So that's things like abilities like Pillage or Terrify that we can helmet onto our other Warframes if we want to, and status effects like Corrosive, Magnetic and Viral on our abilities, weapons, companions, Archon shards, etc. There's a whole avenue of ways that we can add this to our build, and I will be doing a final build series and abilities that may help boost up our damage output in various ways also. Please see the previous videos for those details. And yes, I know we're 5 minutes in and we're only just getting to the weapons, but I must remind you to drop me a like, comment and or sub in case you haven't. And yes, we know Incarnons are the way forward in this game. We do. However, there are only 2 in this list, as not everyone who is relatively new to Steel Path may have access to or fully built all the Incarnons available. Also, I don't use a ton of Incarnons myself. I know. The level that I used to test all these builds on also is Lure Circulus Steel Path. It starts at level 180 enemies to show that even on higher levels, these weapons do hold up. So they should be good for starting out on Steel Path. And they should be, because some of them are S-tier weapons. Now, let's get into them, shall we? And first up we have the Ocucor, and I've actually paired it with Sarin here. Psych Discord fam, they think I detest her. I kind of don't like playing alongside her because she kills everything. I really don't like the sound of the miasma being spammed endlessly by other players, but never mind, I'm using her. Insert evil cackle here. I took Gauss out as well with the Ocucor, and he did okay, but I didn't have an armor stripping build on him, so it did suffer a little, and I've put Terrify on Sarin for extra armor stripping, and it just confuses and bewilders the enemies, which is very useful. Now, this weapon is technically an F tier, slightly poor weapon for Steel Path. However, with an augment mod inserted called Sentient Surge, it actually takes it to an S tier weapon. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your mindset, it can only be obtained originally in game from the Narberus event on Deimos at the Necrolisc, and it takes place around Halloween. So October, as I record this, is only a month or so away. You know, you can also obtain it via trading from other players for plat. It is still available from them. It's around 30 plat at the moment. And this weapon really does benefit from the Sentient Surge augment mod because it maintains a high status and critical chance by generating tendrils. And with all of these tendrils active, the Ocucor can inflict a massive amount of status effects. Arcanes that rely on triggering a high amount of certain status effects like Cascadia Flare, Cascadia Empowered and Secondary Shiver work very well with it. It takes a moment to power up though when you're in mission, and it takes a moment to start inflicting death upon your foes, but once it gets going it seems so sturdy, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. Now, I do think taking Sarin and I believe my Nautilus Prime with the Cordon mod, which kind of groups enemies together for you, definitely helped. And as you can see, we are absolutely mowing through the enemies with this build. So yes, I was pleasantly surprised. I really did enjoy this weapon, and I might actually just roll it out again with Sarin. Next up, it's the Grimoire. That's right, the prized diary of the prominent Orokin scientist, Albrecht Intrati. It is a unique secondary weapon that casts bolts of electricity, while its alternate fire throws a large voltaic orb that can slowly travel forward and bounce around the environment, electrocuting any enemies in its path. So funsies. You can get it as a reward from the Whispers in the Walls quest, and it has its own set of mods, tome mods. And one of these we are going to use with our beloved Lavos, because Lavos builds and spreads status effects, and this weapon will help keep us alive with the help of shield gating, i.e. we're going to use the Fast Canticle mod along with other shield gating mods on Lavos. Now, once Fast Canticle is triggered, it will also regenerate our shields for 15 seconds. And we trigger it by killing things while holding the Grimoire. It doesn't actually have to be the killer to trigger Fast Canticle. And this little symbol appears at the top of the screen. So if you don't mind switching back to it now and again, this is very useful, this little diary, to hold on to clutch in your grommets on Steel Path, because it will help keep you alive if you are shield gating, and I will do a separate shield gating video, I promise. It also does a lot of damage, and it really can hold its own. And next up we have the Epitaph Prime, Sevagoth's signature weapon. I've paired it with Mirage though, and her Hall of Malevolence augment mod, and I've put a shield gating build in her, otherwise she would just die. It is a wrist mounted sidearm with high critical chance and critical multiplier. Additionally, charge shots have a guaranteed cold status proc, which slows the enemies down, useful on Steel Path. No need to reload, no, none at all, and it has the highest crit chance of all secondaries apparently. I took it out with Mirage, as I mentioned, and we get a damage boost from one of her abilities if we want it, and multi-shot with her Hall of Mirrors ability. You know, we have multiple Mirages shooting the enemies. Now, usually I use this as a primer with my Jaya build on Steel Path, this very mission, but usually for Void Relic missions on Steel Path, and it doesn't always kill because I have a slightly different build, because it is just priming for Jaya. But however, it was actually killing quite a lot of enemies. I did switch back to, I think, my primary now and again. I don't even know what I took as my primary, maybe the Exceltra Prime. And yeah, we just had a blast. As you can see, we are absolutely mullering the enemies, and you can see all of those different statuses all being applied from Mirage's, you know, her doppelgangers, her extras, you know? They're doing us a favour here. I really like the Epitaph Prime. I just don't use it a huge amount. I do tend to use it more of a primer more than a sort of main secondary weapon, if that makes any sense. And next up, the beloved Kuva Nukor, a highly optimized Nukor that allows for the weapon's microwave field to hit up to 2 additional targets. It has critical multiplier, status chance, increased status chance, and it basically has a unique status effect called the microwave that enlarges enemies' body parts, and honestly they go pop 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 and it's so satisfying. It's known as the former king of secondaries. It excels at status primer builds, especially with viral and heat, but it can just take the enemies down by itself if you use the right warframes with it on Steel Path. Now, I took Harrow out due to his crit chance boosting abilities, but I haven't actually perfected him on Steel Path yet, so I find him difficult to balance all of his abilities. When I got it working, oh my goodness, it was so good, but he kept dying, so I ran it out with Zaku as well, and that was just a much easier path. Zaku is amazing. Their abilities, you know, extra weapons, who doesn't love it? I mean, thinking about it, I probably should have tested it with Mirage as well. Anyway, I've only got so many hours in the day. Now, let's not dwell on the fact that they actually nerfed the Kuva Nukor. That's right. It used to actually string more enemies together. They nerfed it. It's fine. And now we have access to elemental vices at Holvania. You can actually switch over your base element damage to your absolute heart's content. So it doesn't matter who you use as your progenitor anymore for your base damage on your Nukor. I had like 3 or 4 Nukors at one point. Don't need them now. Just got to save up my standing and go and buy these elemental vices from Eleanor for, I think it's around 50,000 standing there. It's quite steep. But once you've invested in it, that's it. You can switch between the elements to your heart's content for your extra base damage boost. And as you can see with Zaku, everything is just easy. There are some frames, once you've got a good build from on Steel Path, it is just easy street. As long as you know how to build each specific warframe for their needs. But we can get into that again in other videos. Once we go past just needing tanky warframes, we're going to look at shield gating. Now, I feel like we must give the Laetum Incarnon an honourable mention, and my Incarnon order is 1121 if you're wondering, as well as this build. I have so many builds. I took Radiation build. The radiation damage doesn't help with this with these enemies, but it still killed everything. And I took it with Neza, so I didn't want to like boost up its abilities to kill things, just to show you that you can do really well with it. It's the spiritual successor to the Exceltra. The weapon delivers massive damage with this Incarnon form. We're not on about crits here. This is not a critical weapon, really. The main blueprint can be purchased from Cavallero of the Holdfast on Zariman, I believe for around 3,000 standing, and it's easy to get hold of. You don't have to rank up much there at all, if at all. And you can also trade the blueprint to other players. This Incarnon, it was my absolute favourite weapon for so long, and I still run it out along with the Tenet Galaxian primary, because it's innate cold on the Tenet Galaxian, so those enemies, and I can get my headshots in under pressure on Steel Path if I can't slow the enemies down in other ways. And once it's Incarnoned, it just goes to town and everything. Yes, it was struggling a little bit here because the radiation damage on it wasn't really helping my cause, but I often take it out with radiation. This is why I had it on there, to do Netracel's solo at the Sanctum Anatomica with Dante and the Tenet Galaxian, and it just makes light work of the Murmur with that radiation added. Now, I don't build it for any crit because it just goes on pure damage, and it was great with Neza, but it was also great with Dante because Dante obviously boosts up damage output. So any warframe that boosts your damage can also boost your weapons, whether they're Incarnoned or not. Next up, we have the Tenet Cycron, and I'm running it out with my mag build with a Breach Surge in place of her ability 1. More on that maybe in another video. I can't get it all in here, but trust me, it does wonders to the enemy. The Cycron is a Corpus Plasma Radiation Beam Pistol with a battery that automatically regenerates ammo after the user stops firing for a second. Right? So forgo ammunition with a regenerating energy disc in this plasma throwing pistol. Now, I had this weapon for a while because I obviously got it off a Tenet sister, and I've over leveled it. So because I'm MR 34, I guess now, I've got my mod slot capacity up to 80. So I can put in the wrong polarity, as you saw, and still get really highly fused mods in. Now, I never used it until I came to make this video, I'll be perfectly honest with you. And after a little bit of tweaking, it actually turned out to be very good at melting the enemies, along with mag, and her Breach Surge build. Now, we were having all of the funsies over here. It was a great little status spreader. However, I didn't run it out with any other Warframes, and I do feel like there may be another way of boosting up this delicious status spreading. As you can see, the more numbers, the better. And yeah, we were having a blast, literally a blast here. And Mag, she's pretty damn useful. I kind of like her. I don't use her as much as I should. Obviously, you can start the game with Mag. But, I mean, she's got an amazing skin, right? Am I right? And next up, a very quick mention for the Coda Catabolyst, because I actually haven't completed this build, as you can see, and I ran it out with Mirage, same build as earlier. And it's a laser pistol with a grenade-like ammo sack. In addition to enhanced damage, status chance, and magazine size, the reload grenade now throws 3 grenades, but at a smaller explosion radius. This is another weapon, by the way, you can over-level. And at the point in recording, like I said, it's an incomplete build. However, it actually held up really, really well. So I took it out with Mirage, and alongside her Hall of Mirrors, again, we got that damage boost. I also liked its specific mod, the Critical Mutation, got from Nightwave offerings on rotation or traded from other players. The only issue I kept having, really, is that this weapon, when it runs out of ammo, you actually have to manually trigger the reload button, whereupon the corrosive grenades spew forth, which is fun and unique, very unique. But because it's me, I just kept forgetting to reload. I was mashing the trigger button, nothing was happening. And I mean, when you reload, yes, there's an explosive effect and it's wonderful, but it's a bit slow. And when you're on Steel Path, that isn't useful. So although it was mullering everything and I did enjoy it, I would just say that it's a bit of fun more than like my new favourite weapon on Steel Path, but definitely worth getting your hands on. And next up we have the dual Coda Torxica. Get the job done right with a pair of spore-flinging terror tools. It inflicts a spore that spreads to nearby enemies on death, causing cold status effects and increased vulnerability to damage, especially from the Torxica. So, you know, it's a unique Coda dual pistol. Now, I ran it out with Zaku, and I realised I had a Riven. I didn't realise I had this, and I hadn't actually used this weapon until I started recording for this video. I'm not even joking. But I saw that it was an S-tier weapon, and I just thought I'd give it a go. And I'll be honest, they sort of felt a bit puny and like sounded a bit puny, and the reticle on the screen looks a bit weird, like there should be some kind of alt fire. I don't know. I was a bit confused by this weapon, so I didn't really get into it. However, it just quietly goes around killing things. Like there's no big bada booms. It's got like a nice sound effect to it, but it doesn't feel like it's packing a punch. However, it does apply this very useful cold status effect, and if you don't know, obviously cold status effect slows enemies down. And when you're on Steel Path and you're at risk of dying being attacked, slowing the enemies down is a wonderful, good, amazing thing. So that's what we like this weapon for. But it just, even though the numbers don't appear big, it just kills everything. So I was a little bit like underwhelmed by it, but at the same time I was like, well, it's killing things, so it must be good. And second to last, we have the dual Toxocyst Incarnon. Kept muddling it up with the previous dual Coda Torxica in my video clips. Got very confused. Anyway, it features a mind-blowing Incarnon form that can cut through any content. Alright. Making it a powerful killing weapon. Now, it is an Incarnon weapon, so you have to get the Incarnon form from doing Steel Path Circuit on Duviri or buying it from Cavallero when it's on rotation. And then obviously leveling up your Incarnons by doing little jobs and tasks. But once you've invested in an Incarnon weapon, it's just worth its weight in gold. And I've run it out with Nova with a pillage build because we want some armor stripping as well. Nova, if you don't know, is an absolute tank on Steel Path. If you paid any attention, there was no shield gating really in that build at all. We don't need it with her. She's just a happy-go-lucky kind of gal. Now, we've run them out together, and once it was incarnate, let's just look at it go. Just look at it kill the enemies. Now, those purple numbers, obviously, I'm getting a lot of status spreading from my companions. Again, that'll be in the companion video and then the final builds. But you can see it going on. But the yellow numbers and the white numbers are very much the incarnate or weapon. And again, the numbers aren't massive. But that's the thing about incarnate weapons. You don't need them to be. They just seem to just take the enemies down quite happily. And I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like amazingly, oh my goodness, it's the most amazing weapon I've ever used, but I didn't have any single problems with it once I'd ranked it up a little bit and put some work into it. So I may go back to all of these weapons that you see that are incomplete and continue to work on them, because they can only get better, you know, by working on them. Right? Am I right there? And now, on to the pièce de résistance, the final weapon in my little list of weapons that I've come to like for secondaries. I have such a soft spot for this Sporelacre Kitgun. The Sporelacre chamber, as you see here with the Haymaker and the Killstream, it is an S tier chamber. There's a reason for it. It's amazing. This is my original from my Xbox account, by the way, which is why it's got 11 Former in it. And I do have 3 ribbons for the Sporelacers. Don't worry about it. They cost 10 plat each, like 10 plat. Okay, and you can re-roll it to your heart's content, Kuva allowing. Now, this is a secondary, and you can build it, the sculpture, with as a primary, but it's better as a secondary. It semi-automatically fires a single shot that splits into 3 smaller toxic bomblets. What's not to love? The chamber can be bought from Father at the Necrolisc for 500 standing, I believe, and I don't even think you have to rank up there to get hold of that now. Obviously, you need 3 components to build it, etc. I've done a whole separate kit gun video, let's not get into it. But the Pax Charge Arcane that you get from Rude Zood, once you've ranked it up to level 3, it fully just recharges your ammo. You don't even need ammunition for it, okay? And let's not even just like forget that the on-call crew that you manage to access, hopefully by the point you're on Steel Path, you can give them your Squelcher gun. Okay, it's a kit gun, but that's what I called it. I named it Squelcher because it makes splatty noises. And there's something about the crew and the elite crew that in the hands of them, it bypasses enemy defenses more than you can, and it deals massive damage. They will one-shot the acolytes for you while you are just prancing around, splatting other enemies and looking beautiful and fabulous. To say that I love this weapon is an absolute understatement. I keep banging on about how amazing it is, and it is amazing. And yes, you have to invest in it over time. Ignore my 11 Former. Many mistakes were made before Omni was a thing, and this was my original from when I first started Warframe all those years ago. So there you go, my dears, some secondary weapons to start thinking about or getting your teeth into, maybe, if they are your thing and you are able to get hold of them. And like I said, we are keeping it real here. Ranking up your MR, obtaining an ongoing, never-ending supply of endo and credits will always be needed, and something you can work towards, obviously. And if you can get the better version of your original mods in and fuse up what you can and just keep chipping away, and if you want some support while the insanity and hyperfocus ensues, please come and join the Discord. It's a lovely place to hang out, talk all things Warframe and gaming and life and everything in between if you so wish. Then, you know, we can help push you towards that goal of getting to Steel Path and getting all the good stuff. But the fun is in the journey, okay? So don't forget to enjoy it. And I have to say a big shout out to the current Discord fam for keeping it so awesome in there, if slightly sarcastic and bantery. Also, a big thank you to all my YouTube subscribers. You know who you are, and the people that have paid their hard-earned money to follow my channel as well and have early access to my videos. Your support means so much, I can't even begin to tell you. In the meantime, thank you for tuning in, and if you are still here, you absolutely do get a gold star collectible when you join the Discord. I can't think of any other way to give it to you unless you write something in the comments to indicate that you stayed here till the end, and I'll give you a gold star in the comments. I really do hope to see you again in the next one, no matter what it may be. But for now, you take care now, and goodbye.